Hi friends, this is Swadhin and welcome back to my channel Streaming with Swadhin. And RRR, this is one of the most awaited movie for a very long time. Release of this movie got delayed for a very so many reasons, for so many times, and I was so excited to watch this movie. This movie got released on Friday, and the next day, Saturday morning, I watched it. And so let's stream about this movie, RRR. I will not give you any spoilers at the beginning of the video, and later I will be giving spoilers, but I will also let you know so that you guys can decide whether to watch the spoilers part or not. RRR is a fictitious story based on the real life freedom fighters Alluri Sitarama Raju and Komaram Bhim. In real life they never met each other, but in this parallel world of SS Rajamouli, they are best buddies and best friends, exactly like Jai Viru in Sholay. In fact, the friendship in this movie will be remembered for a very long time, about two friends, the kind of friendship like we remember Jai and Viru in Sholay. I'm sure that people will remember this friendship in this movie for a very long time as well. There are lots of difference between that, but the friendship, the way it was shown, was really great. Now, to be honest, if you like serious movies and looking for a lot of logical story, it's better that you stay away from this movie. You literally need to put your brain on a locker or something and lock, and don't even think about the logic and the physics of this movie. I would suggest everybody to first watch the trailer and get your expectation right. This is more like an animation movie made with human being, and the visual effects of this movie I thought was quite brilliant. Far better than Bahubali 1 and 2, and this can be compared with any good visual effect. It's really international standard, and it was really good. The action scenes were very creative and visually stunning. I saw the Hindi dubbed version in 3D, and there were some genuinely nice 3D moments which I enjoyed watching. The background score of this movie was absolutely excellent, and the songs and dance sequence were amazing, particularly Nato Nato song, which was translated in Hindi as Nacho Nacho. The full song is not available in YouTube or anywhere, but the theater you will be able to see the full song, and it's really worth watching. The dance off and the way this song was done is absolutely brilliant. Even if the story is devoid from logic, but you won't complain about it, because the 3 hours of this movie will always keep you entertained with something, and you need to watch the trailer of this movie to know what you are signing up for. The CGI of this movie in most part is excellent. In some parts it's weak, but overall it is great. Remember, this is a big budget movie and looks very expensive, but if you compare this movie with any Hollywood big budget superhero movies, then it is this movie is like 1/10 of the money spent what Hollywood spent. This is how low budget this movie is compared to, if you compare it this with Hollywood. But for Indian standard, this is one of the really big budget movie, and in this movie, filmmaker was definitely very ambitious and definitely tried lot of things and pushed the envelope and really tried to make the action sequences as grand and as huge as possible. To a large degree, they have succeeded as well. Acting wise, RamCharan and NTR both were very good. RamCharan was particularly very good. He had a very complex character. And NTR, I always say that NTR never disappoints you. Whatever I saw of NTR till today, I never felt disappointed. I have seen very little of RamCharan compared to NTR, but he never disappoints. Ajay Devgan, who played a cameo, made his presence felt, and AliaB didn't have much to do in this movie, but she had a good presence, screen presence, and most villains in this movie, played by the British, were absolutely like expressionless and quite bad, to be very honest. And the characters development of the negative characters were quite non-existent. And exactly like Lagan's Elizabeth, there was one positive character, and her performance was just alright, but not as good as Lagan's Elizabeth. In fact, in Lagan, the British actors did a decent job, and there was a decent character development for some of the British characters as well. But in this movie, that doesn't exist for sure. And now let's get into the spoiler part. If you don't want to know absolutely nothing about this movie, then you can watch the movie and then come back and then watch the rest of the video. SS Rajamouli's Bahubali 1 and 2 got tremendous appreciation and extremely successful in Pan India. Since that time, there are people who are saying that now the Bollywood industry, which was basically dominated by Hindi movie industry, they will have a challenge in terms of Telegu movie and movies made in the South. And so Bollywood also attempted a huge big budget visual extravaganza, named that movie as Thugs of Hindustan, if you remember, and that was an absolute disaster in every aspect. The story of that movie was that the British implant an Indian spy to catch an Indian freedom fighter, and later the character of Amitabh Bachchan and Amir Khan joined hands together for common cause. In spite of having such a great actors like Amitabh Bachchan and Amir Khan, that movie didn't work, and that movie was not done well. The basic plot line of this movie is quite similar. And initially we see RamCharan, who is working for the British police as spy to catch Indian freedom fighters, particularly NTR, who travel to Delhi for a particular mission to free a child who was abducted by British. But here SS Rajamouli has shown how the story can be done and how it should be done. This movie is more about the emotion and least about the logic. In fact, the logic doesn't exist at all, but emotionally it does connect with the audiences. It's more like watching a cartoon or animation, but it's not exactly a cartoon or animation. It's a little more than that, because here the human beings are enacting that. So that's a very unique style that SS Rajamouli has able to achieve in his movies, whether it's Bahubali or RRR. This is how they have done the introduction sequence of the two lead actor. That was absolutely huge. RamCharan's introduction scene, where he fights with entire crowd. At one point, he was almost getting lynched by the mob, and desperately pulling and beating the mob and that scene was actually brilliantly done, and at times it was looking so gritty and so bloody. But then suddenly we see him flying, and we see him in more like an animation, and that I thought was a great introduction, because they have mixed up the gritty seriousness with the animation part, and that was really very well done. And then there was the introduction of NTR, which I thought was actually better than the RamCharan's introduction, where he was trying to trap a wolf, but instead trapped a tiger. And then the bridge scenes where RamCharan and NTR meet for the first time while saving a child, and it was a very random scene where RamCharan was just chasing a guy, and reach to that place, and NTR was also at that place. They never meet up, but then suddenly an accident takes place and they meet up, and the way they save is one of the most like visually stunning and amazing scenes that you can see. And then their friendship developed a friendship. And then the dance sequence happens between RamCharan and NTR, which was amazing. The dancers danced with so much energy, and the choreography of the song was absolutely excellent. And the words of the song was so good, Nato Nato, and it was about making everyone dance, and the people who were abusing him were also dancing together. It was really a great scene. And then there was this interval action sequence, and this was probably the second best action sequence in the movie, because director has a greater plan for the finale. Here NTR entered into a British palace to get back the abducted child, and for that he attacked the men and the animals. He attacked with men and animals. He hunted in forest. The scene was absolutely crazy and absolutely brilliant. The CGI of animals shown in this movie were much better than most Indian movies ever shown. Animal CGI. The set pieces were amazing, and they were mixed with CGI, which looked amazingly great. And these South movies have the habit of starting an interval before an interval to have a great action scene. This is not the first time. I have seen this in quite a few times in previously as well, and that's really a great scene. And after watching such a grand action scenes, we definitely needed an interval. And the interval, after the interval, things does get a bit cooler in terms of action, and we see NTR torture scene, and that was a bit dramatic compared to that, but there was still lots of blood and brutality. And then there was this AjayD's cameo, and the action involving AjayD were far more grounded, and he was shown in flashback as RamCharan's father, and as usual AjayD is always good, and the entire cameo was really very good and very enjoyable. AliaB also had a cameo. AliaB suddenly meet up with NTR. It was a coincidence in Delhi, and it kind of reminded me of the movies in 70s when such coincidence was so normal. And then there was the escape sequence of NTR where NTR helps RamCharan to escape. RamCharan's legs weren't injured, and he kept on walking on his hand and shoulder whenever in the prison. And that was a build-up for this action sequence, that his legs are not walking, and RamCharan's was sitting on top of NTR, and RamCharan's hand and NTR's leg was used, which I thought was extremely creative and unique action sequence. And it was so good, and although it didn't make much logic. And then remember what I said earlier, that it's difficult to find logic, because as we head towards the finale, the very next scene, like RamCharan suddenly gets the power from Lord Ram, and he started jumping and fighting with his injured leg, and we never questioned about his injury ever again. We just forget it, because that is how the movie is. But it was still we cannot deny the fact that finale action sequence was absolutely brilliant. In this scene, RamCharan shown as getting some kind of a power from Lord Ram's statue, which was there in the jungle. And with that statue of Lord Ram, there was heavily armed with real bow and arrows. And RamCharan takes the position of Lord Ram's from Indian mythology and Ramayana, while NTR takes the position of Lord Bhim, which was most powerful character in terms of physical strength in Indian mythology, Mahabharata, and that strength was shown quite well, where NTR was like physically so strong that he's taking out bikes and throwing bikes at people. It was really great. And in this parallel world where the two freedom fighter meets who actually never met, they take a form of Ram and Bhim, which also never met in Indian mythology. But in this parallel world of SS Rajamouli, he made it possible to meet. And the final product is truly jaw-dropping and visually one of the best action sequence ever made in India. And it can be compared to any action sequence, even internationally. It was so good. And towards the end, there was some blast sequence in the British Palace and all, where we clearly see that the CGI of that scene were not so great, but those scenes you hardly care about all those scenes anymore, because you really see a great action sequence. Overall, this movie was like a real enlarged version of Indian masala movie, which we all enjoy so much for so many years. But this is an enlarged version, a bigger version that we have ever seen before, and a perfect movie to relax and have a good time. And in spite of this movie having like a 3-hour movie, this movie is really a value of repeat watch. You never get bored, and I'm sure that many people which will watch this movie again in the theater, and I might watch this movie in the theater or not, but I will definitely check out the Telegu version of this movie at some point for sure, because I saw the Hindi version, and my rating for this movie is 8 out of 10. And do write down below that which movie should I review next, and if you have any suggestion, please write down below. And if you are aware of any good SS Rajamouli's movie which you can give suggestion, please give suggestion. I would love to watch more SS Rajamouli's movie. Please write down in the comment section, and do hit like and subscribe, and beside that there is a bell icon. Do hit the bell icon for notification. And you can also follow me on my social network pages like Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, and the links for these will be given below. Thanks for watching this video. Be safe, take care, and peace.